They were standing 3 feet away from me at Gate D7 in Miami International Airport, speaking in rapid Spanish, planning how to put me in a nursing home and sell my house. They thought I couldn't understand a single word. What they didn't know was that I'd spent 30 years in Buenos Aires, working as a professional translator, and I spoke Spanish better than both of them combined. Every single word they said, I understood perfectly. And I was recording everything. My name is Grace Turner. I'm 68 years old. For the past 12 years, I've worked as a Spanish-English translator at Miami International Airport, one of the busiest Latin American travel hubs in the United States. I process an average of 40 translation requests per day, everything from medical emergencies to business contracts to family reunification documents. My colleagues call me La Profesora because of my flawless Spanish accent and my ability to navigate even the most complex regional dialects. But my son Marcus and his wife Vanessa didn't know any of this. As far as they were concerned, I was just their aging mother who worked some generic airport job. They'd never asked for details, never visited me at work, never showed the slightest curiosity about what I actually did for a living. That indifference was about to cost them everything. It was a Tuesday morning in late September. The Florida humidity hung thick in the air-conditioned terminal as thousands of travelers moved through the concourses like schools of fish. I just finished processing a translation for a Colombian family whose grandmother needed emergency medical evacuation paperwork. The gratitude in their eyes when I handed them the completed documents. That's why I still did this work. That's why I showed up every single day. I was walking toward the employee break room when I heard a familiar voice. My son Marcus. Here at the airport. I stopped, confused. He never came to my workplace. In 12 years, he'd never once visited me during a shift. Then I heard Vanessa's laugh. That high-pitched, artificial sound she made when she thought she was being clever. I stepped around a support column and saw them standing near Gate D7, which served primarily South American routes. They were looking at their phones, occasionally glancing around as if checking that no one could overhear them. That's when I heard the Spanish. Cuando vamos a hablar con ella sobre el asilo? Marcus asked. When are we going to talk to her about the nursing home? My heart stopped, but I didn't move, didn't react. Just stood there behind that column, invisible in my navy blue airport employee uniform. Vanessa responded, also in Spanish, her Puerto Rican accent strong. No todavía. Primero necesitamos que firme los papeles de la casa. Not yet. First we need her to sign the house papers. Why si no quiere firmar? Marcus asked. And if she doesn't want to sign? Entonces usamos el poder notarial médico. Vanessa said, scrolling through her phone. Mi abogado dice que es fácil si decimos que está perdiendo la memoria. Then we use medical power of attorney. My lawyer says it's easy if we say she's losing her memory. I should have felt shock, anger, betrayal. But what I actually felt was something colder, more calculating. Because I knew something they didn't, I understood every single word, and I was already planning my response. But first, I needed to know more. I needed to understand the full scope of what they were planning. So I did what any professional translator would do in my position. I listened. I documented. And I prepared. Asterisk, let me tell you how I came to speak Spanish so fluently that native speakers often mistake me for Argentine-born. It's a story that spans 3 decades, 2 continents, and one extraordinary love. I was born Grace Patricia Sullivan in 1955 in Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up in a working-class Irish-American family. My father worked in a steel mill. My mother cleaned houses. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Case Western Reserve University, where I studied linguistics and literature. In 1978, fresh out of graduate school with a degree in Romance languages, I got a job offer that changed my life. The U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires needed an English teacher and junior translator. I was 23 years old, had never been farther than Pennsylvania, and spoke Spanish at maybe an intermediate level. I accepted the position without hesitation. Buenos Aires in 1978 was a city of contradictions, beautiful and dangerous, sophisticated and brutal. The military dictatorship was in power. People disappeared. But within the embassy walls, I felt safe. And the city itself, the architecture, the cafes, the tango music spilling from open doorways captivated me completely. Within 6 months, I was functionally fluent in Spanish. Within a year, I was dreaming in Spanish. Within 2 years, I could distinguish between Argentine, Chilean, Uruguayan, and Paraguayan accents with my eyes closed. And then I met Eduardo. Eduardo Ramirez was an Argentine linguist who consulted for the embassy. 15 years older than me, already a widower with a teenage son, devastatingly intelligent. And the first man who ever made me feel like my mind was my most attractive quality. He taught me Argentine slang, corrected my verb conjugations over coffee, introduced me to Jorge Luis Borges and Julio Cortázar, and showed me a Buenos Aires that tourists never saw. We fell in love slowly, carefully. And then, all at once, we married in 1981 in a small ceremony at the San Telmo Church. His son, Miguel, who was 16 at the time, stood as Eduardo's best man. I wore a cream-colored dress from a vintage shop on Cal Defensa. Eduardo cried when I recited my vows in perfect Spanish, with an accent so convincing that his mother later told me she'd forgotten. I hadn't been born in Argentina. We spent the next 27 years in Buenos Aires. I continued working for the embassy, eventually rising to senior translator and cultural liaison. Eduardo taught linguistics at the University of Buenos Aires. We lived in a fourth-floor apartment in the Recoleta neighborhood with tall ceilings, French doors that opened onto a small balcony, and enough bookshelves to house our combined library of over 3,000 volumes. Those were the happiest years of my life. But in 2006, Eduardo was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. We fought it for 18-month surgeries, chemotherapy, alternative treatments, everything. He died on a Tuesday morning in April 2008, holding my hand, in the same bed where we'd spent thousands of nights reading to each other. Miguel, who was by then 43 with children of his own, helped me through the funeral. The entire linguistics department showed up. So did our neighbors. So did people I'd translated for over the years. The church was packed out after Eduardo died. I couldn't stay in Buenos Aires. Every corner of that city held memories that were now made of pain. Miguel understood. He helped me pack, helped me sell the apartment, helped me ship my books back to the United States. I moved to Miami in 2009, not Cleveland, where I'd grown up, but Miami because I couldn't let go of the Spanish language, couldn't let go of that part of myself that Eduardo had helped me become. I got my current job at Miami International Airport 3 months after arriving. It wasn't glamorous, but it let me use my Spanish every single day, and that felt like keeping a promise to Eduardo, even though he was gone. My son Marcus had been living in Miami since 2005 with his first wife. We'd always been close. After Eduardo died, Marcus was one of the reasons I chose Miami. I thought we'd see each other often. I thought he'd want his mother nearby. For the first 2 years, we did see each other often. Weekly dinners, birthday celebrations. He even asked me to teach him Spanish, though he never followed through on the lessons. Then he divorced his first wife in 2011, met Vanessa in 2012, married her in 2013. And everything changed. Vanessa Rodriguez was 28 when she married my son. He was 35. She came from a Puerto Rican family in Hialeah, worked as a receptionist at a dental office, and presented herself as sweet, demure, and family-oriented. At their wedding, she called me Mommy Grace and gave a speech about how lucky she was to gain not just a husband, but a mother. She cried when she talked about her own mother, who had passed away 3 years earlier. Everyone said she was perfect for Marcus. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to be happy for my son. But something felt wrong from the start. It was small things at first. The way she'd steer conversations away whenever I mentioned my work. The way she'd change the subject if I spoke Spanish. The dismissive little laugh she'd make whenever Marcus mentioned that I'd lived in Argentina. That was so long ago. Mommy, she'd say. That's not who you are anymore. But it was who I was. Those 30 years weren't something I'd left behind. They were the foundation of everything I'd become. The warning signs escalated slowly. Marcus started canceling our weekly dinners. Then bi-weekly became monthly. Then monthly became a let you know when we're free. They bought a house in Coral Gables in 2014. Never invited me to see it until the housewarming party 6 months later. When I finally saw it, a beautiful 4-bedroom with a pool, I asked how they'd afforded it. Marcus said they'd gotten help from family. I assumed he meant Vanessa's family. I didn't ask questions. In 2016, they had their first child, Emma. I was thrilled to be a grandmother. I bought gifts, offered to babysit, asked to be involved. Vanessa always had excuses. Emma's sleeping. We have plans. Maybe next time. I saw my granddaughter maybe twice a year. In 2018, they had their second child, Daniel, same pattern. Same excuses. By 2019, I'd stopped asking to visit. Stopped initiating contact. I sent birthday cards and Christmas gifts and told myself that maybe this was just how modern families worked. Maybe I was being too traditional, too demanding. Maybe I needed to accept that I wasn't really part of their lives anymore. But then came 2021, and everything exploded. It started with a phone call from Marcus in January. He wanted to have lunch, just the two of us. No Vanessa, no kids. He said he needed to talk to me about something important. We met at a Cuban restaurant in Little Havana. I ordered the ropa vieja. He barely touched his food. Mom, he said. Vanessa and I have been talking. We're worried about you. Worried? I asked, about what? About you living alone. About your age. About whether you're taking care of yourself. I set down my fork. Marcus, I'm 66 years old. I work full-time. I exercise. I have friends. What exactly are you worried about? He couldn't look me in the eye. We're just saying. Maybe it's time to think about making some changes. Maybe downsizing. Maybe looking into communities for seniors. Senior communities, I repeated. You mean retirement homes? I mean places where you'd have support, where you wouldn't have to worry about maintaining a house by yourself. I lived in my small Miami Springs bungalow for 12 years. It was paid off. It was exactly the right size for me. And I wasn't maintaining it by myself. I hired someone to mow the lawn and had a handyman I called when things needed repair. I don't need support, I said. I'm perfectly capable, Mom. Don't be defensive. We're just trying to help. The lunch ended badly. I paid the bill and left. Marcus didn't call to apologize. Didn't call to follow up, just nothing. 3 months later, I got a letter from a lawyer's office. It was a request for me to sign paperwork giving Marcus power of attorney for medical and financial decisions in the event of incapacity. I called him immediately. What is this? It's just a precaution, Mom. Everyone does it. I don't need you making medical decisions for me. I'm not incapacitated, not yet. But what if something happens? What if you're in an accident and can't make decisions? Then I'll handle it then. I'm not signing this, he sighed. That disappointed, patronizing sigh that parents usually give children. Except he was the child. I was the parent, and he was treating me like I was senile. Fine, he said. But don't say we didn't try to help. After that, I didn't hear from him for 6 months. No birthday call in July. No Thanksgiving invitation in November. Then came the phone call in December 2021. Mom, we need to talk about your house, my house. Not are you okay? Not how have you been? Not we miss you, just straight to my property. What about my house? I asked Vanessa, and I have been looking at the market. Your house is worth almost $400,000 now. You bought it for what, $90,000? Marcus, I'm not selling my house, just listen. You could sell, take the profit, move into a really nice assisted living facility, and still have money left over. I don't want to live in an assisted living facility. I want to live in my house. But Mom, you're there all alone. What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency? I have a medical alert system. I have neighbors who check on me. I have a life, Marcus. One that I'm very happy with. You're being stubborn. I'm being independent. There's a difference. He hung up on me. For the next year and a half, I heard nothing. No calls, no visits, no contact with my grandchildren. It was as if I'd been erased from their lives. Until that Tuesday morning at gate D7, when I discovered they hadn't forgotten about me at all. They'd just been planning in Spanish, thinking I couldn't understand, asterisk. Standing behind that column at Miami International Airport, listening to my son and daughter-in-law plot my institutionalization in a language. They thought I didn't speak. I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I was going to do what I'd done professionally for 40 years. I was going to document everything, translate it, and build an airtight case. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and started recording. Why la casa? Vanessa was saying. Podemos vender la antes o después del asilo? And the house. Can we sell it before or after the nursing home? Mi abogado dice que es mayor después, Marcus replied. Así no parece tan obvio que lo estamos haciendo por el dinero. My lawyer says it's better after. That way it doesn't look so obvious that we're doing it for the money. My lawyer. He had a lawyer. This wasn't a casual conversation. This was a planned strategy. Vanessa laughed. Tu mamá ni siquiera sabe que hablo español. Piensa que solo hablo inglés. Your mom doesn't even know I speak Spanish. She thinks I only speak English. Marcus laughed too. Es perfecta. Podemos planear todo delante de ella. Why no tiene idea? She's perfect. We can plan everything in front of her, and she has no idea. I wanted to step out from behind that column, wanted to reveal myself in that moment, speaking perfect Spanish, watching their faces drain of color. But I didn't because I was smarter than that. I'd spent 30 years navigating complex diplomatic situations. I knew that the element of surprise was a weapon you only use once, and you had to use it at exactly the right moment. This wasn't the right moment. So I kept recording. ¿Cuánto dinero crees que tiene? Vanessa asked. How much money do you think she has? No mucho, Marcus said. Pro la casa vale que $800,000. Why creo que tiene algo de ahorros? Probablemente 100,000. Quizá 150,000. Not much. But the house is worth $400,000, and I think she has some savings. Probably 100,000, maybe 150,000, $500,000. That's what they thought I was worth. That's what their love for me translated to in currency. Entonces podríamos usar este dinero para la Universidad de los Niños, Vanessa said, her tone practical, as if we were discussing a stock portfolio and not my entire life savings. So then we could use that money for the kids' college. Exacto, Marcus agreed. Y para pagar nuestras deudas de tarjetas de crédito. Debemos como 50,000. Exactly. And to pay off our credit card debt. We owe like $50,000 in credit card debt. Living in a 4-bedroom house in Coral Gables. Driving a BMW and a Mercedes. And planning to steal their mother's life savings to bail themselves out. ¿Cuándo hacemos el movimiento? Vanessa asked. When do we make the move? El abogado dice que necesitamos documentar que está declinando, Marcus said. Así que empezaremos a visitarla más. Tomaremos fotos si la casa está desordenada. Grabación de video si dice algo confuso. Construir en caso. The lawyer says we need to document that she's declining. So we'll start visiting her more. Take photos if the house is messy. Video recording if she says something confused. Build a case. Against me. Using manufactured evidence. The recording on my phone was now 4 minutes long. I have more than enough. But I kept listening, kept recording because I needed to know everything. Why si se niega? Vanessa asked. Why si pelea? And if she refuses? If she fights? No pelea, Marcus said, his voice absolutely confident. Es mi mama. Siempre hachi lo que le digo. Siempre ha sido así. She won't fight. She's my mom. She always does what I tell her. She's always been like that. Always does what he tells her. That sentence. That single sentence. That's what broke something inside me because he was right. I had always done what he wanted. Always supported his decisions. Always believed the best in him. Always given him the benefit of the doubt. I'd raised him by myself after his father left when Marcus was 3 years old. I'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I co-signed his first car loan. I'd helped with his wedding expenses. I'd babysat whenever he needed. I'd been there for every single milestone. And this was what I'd raised. A man who thought his mother was too weak to fight back. A man who'd hired a lawyer to steal from his own mother. A man who was actively planning to have me declared incompetent. So he could take everything I'd worked my entire life to build. The rage that flooded through me in that moment was cold and clear and absolutely focused. I stopped recording. Saved the file. Backed it up to 3 different cloud storage services. Then I did something I learned from Eduardo. From 30 years of diplomatic work. From decades of navigating complex human interactions, I smiled. I walked out from behind the column. Fixed my expression into something pleasant and surprised. And I called out to them in English, Marcus? Vanessa, what a surprise. What are you doing here? Asterisk, the look on Marcus's face when he saw me was priceless. Pure shock, followed immediately by calculation. How much had I seen? How long had I been there? But I'd timed it perfectly. I'd emerged from the direction of the main concourse. As if I'd just been walking through the terminal. There was no way for them to know I'd been listening. Vanessa recovered first. Her face sliding into that sweet mask she always wore. Mommy Grace. Oh my God. What are you doing here? I gestured to my uniform. I work here, remember? I'm on my lunch break. All right, Marcus said, still looking slightly panicked. We're meeting someone, a friend, Vanessa added quickly. From Puerto Rico. Their flight was delayed, lies, both of them lying straight to my face. I could see it in the way they avoided eye contact. In the way Vanessa's hand kept moving to her purse. To her phone, the phone where they'd probably been looking at nursing home websites. That's nice, I said, keeping my voice light. I haven't seen you 2 in so long. How are Emma and Daniel? They're great, Vanessa said. Growing so fast. You should come visit sometime. That vague, meaningless word that meant never. I'd love that, I said. And then, because I couldn't resist, I added in perfect Spanish. Sería maravilloso ver a mis nietos otra vez. It would be wonderful to see my grandchildren again. Both of them froze. I didn't know you spoke Spanish, Vanessa said carefully. I gave her my most innocent smile. Oh, just a little. I pick things up at work, you know. Travelers from all over Latin America come through here. You hear so many languages. I watched her relax. Watched her decide that I was no threat. That my Spanish was probably limited to basic airport phrases like gate number and passport please. She had no idea. Well, Marcus said, we should probably wait. I interrupted. Since you're here, why don't the 3 of us have coffee? There's a Cuban place in Terminal B we could catch up properly. I could see him searching for an excuse. Could see Vanessa already opening her mouth to decline. But I didn't give them a chance. Please, I said, and I let my voice crack just slightly. Let my eyes get a little misty. Playing the lonely old mother. Playing the role they expected me to play. I miss you both so much. Just 20 minutes. Marcus couldn't refuse. Not in public. Not when I was looking at him with those sad eyes. Sure, Mom, he said. 20 minutes. The Cuban cafe in Terminal B was one of my favorite spots in the airport. The owner, Roberto, was from Santiago de Cuba, and we've been friends for years. I'd helped his daughter with translation for her college applications. He always saved me the best cortadito when we walked in. Roberto saw me and immediately smiled. Doa Grace. ¿Cómo estés? He called out. Muy bien, Roberto. I replied in Spanish, then continued in a rapid stream of Cuban dialect that I knew Marcus and Vanessa wouldn't be able to follow, even with their basic Spanish. These are my son and daughter-in-law. They don't know I speak Spanish. Play along. Roberto didn't miss a beat. His smile got wider. Ah, family. How wonderful. Sit. I bring you my special coffee. We sat at a small table near the window overlooking the runway. Planes took off and landed in the distance. Normal life continuing while my world was fracturing. So, I said brightly, tell me everything. What have you been up to? How's work? How are the kids? They gave me the standard responses. Work was fine. Kids were fine. House was fine. Everything was fine. Fine. I nodded along. Asked follow-up questions. Played the interested mother. All while thinking about that recording on my phone. All while planning my next moves. Roberto brought us coffee and 3 pastelitos. From the fresh batch, he said in English. For Doa Grace's family, always the best, thank you, Vanessa said. She took a bite of her pastelito and made an appreciative sound. Then, probably thinking I couldn't understand, she said to Marcus in Spanish, Es rico. Pro tenemos que irnos pronto. El abogado nos espera a las 3. It's good. But we have to leave soon. The lawyer is expecting us at 3. The lawyer. They had a meeting with the lawyer today. After encountering me randomly at the airport. This wasn't random at all. They'd been at the airport to discuss their plans, thinking it was a safe space where I'd never overhear. They hadn't been waiting for a friend. They'd been strategizing in public in Spanish, believing they were invisible. You seem distracted. Honey, I said to Marcus. Is everything okay? Fine, he said quickly. Just work stuff, you know, I said, stirring my cortadito slowly. I was thinking about what you said last year. About my house. They both tensed. Maybe you were right, I continued. Maybe I should think about downsizing. It is a lot of house for one person. I watched Vanessa's eyes light up. Watched Marcus lean forward. Really? He said, you're considering it. I'm not getting any younger, I said, infusing my voice with just the right amount of tired resignation. And you were right about the money. The house has appreciated so much. It would be a nice nest egg for my retirement. That's great, Mom, Marcus said. Really smart thinking. Maybe you could help me look at options? I suggested. You know, retirement communities. Places that would be suitable. Of course, Vanessa said immediately. We'd be happy to help. In fact, we've already been looking at a few places just to have information ready when you were ready. You have? I asked, my voice full of false gratitude. That's so thoughtful. We just want what's best for you, Mommy, Vanessa said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. I looked down at her hand on mine. Looked at the French manicure. The 2-carat diamond ring Marcus had probably gone into debt to buy her. Looked at the designer purse hanging on the back of her chair. And I smiled. Thank you both, I said. I don't know what I'd do without family who cares about me so much. We finished our coffee. They made excuses about their friend's delayed flight and hurried away. I watched them disappear into the crowd, already pulling out their phones, probably texting their lawyer that the mark had taken the bait. Roberto came over to clear the table. In Spanish, he said, Doa Grace, are you okay? You look like you wanted to stab them with your spoon. I laughed. It felt good to laugh. Roberto, I need a favor. Do you know any good lawyers? The kind who handle elder abuse cases. His expression turned serious. Is that what this is? That's exactly what this is. He nodded once. My cousin Magdalena. She's a lawyer. Specializes in protecting seniors. I'll give you her number. Thank you, my friend. De nada. Doa Grace. And remember when you're ready to burn them. I want to watch. That afternoon. I called Magdalena Torres, Roberto's cousin. She agreed to meet me that evening at her office in downtown Miami. Magdalena was in her mid-40s, sharply dressed in a black pantsuit, with a kind of direct gaze that suggested she didn't tolerate nonsense. Her office walls were covered with commendations from various senior advocacy groups. Tell me everything, she said. I did. I told her about the Spanish conversation at the airport, played her the recording, explained Marcus's pattern of isolation, the lawyer consultations, the pressure to sell my house and sign over power of attorney. When I finished, Magdalena sat back in her chair, This is textbook financial elder abuse. Every element is here: isolation, manipulation, coercion, fraudulent misrepresentation of your mental capacity. Can they actually do this? I asked. Can they actually have me declared incompetent? If you don't fight back, yes. With a corrupt doctor willing to sign paperwork, with manufactured evidence, with enough money for lawyers, yes. They could absolutely get a guardianship petition approved by a judge who doesn't look too closely. My hands were shaking. What do I do? First, you document everything, which you're already doing. Second, you get a full cognitive evaluation from an independent neuropsychologist. We'll establish a baseline of your mental competence. Third, you revoke any old powers of attorney you may have signed and create new ones naming someone you trust. Fourth, you secure your assets. Secure them how? We set up a trust. Move your house and your savings into an irrevocable trust with a trustee who isn't Marcus. That way, even if they somehow got guardianship, they couldn't access your property. Won't that tip them off? Magdalena smiled. Not if we're smart. We'll do it quietly. Register the trust in a way that won't show up on standard searches. By the time they realize what you've done, it'll be too late. How much will this cost? My standard rate is $300 an hour. But Roberto told me about you. About how you helped his daughter. About how you're always translating for people at the airport who can't afford official translators. So for you, we'll call it $100 an hour. And we won't let this take any more time than necessary. I could have cried. Thank you. Thank me by letting me destroy them in court, Magdalena said. I hate people who prey on their elderly parents. Hate them with a passion. When you're ready to drop the hammer, I will bring it down so hard they'll never see it coming. Over the next 2 weeks, I followed Magdalena's instructions exactly. I got a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation from Dr. Patricia Mendez. At the University of Miami, 6 hours of cognitive testing, memory, reasoning, executive function, processing speed. Dr. Mendez's conclusion: patient demonstrates cognitive function consistent with highly educated individual of her age. No evidence of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other neurocognitive impairment. In fact, patients' bilingual proficiency and continued professional work likely provide protective cognitive benefits. I established an irrevocable trust naming Roberto as trustee, transferred my house and my savings accounts into the trust, made Magdalena my designated healthcare proxy, updated my will to leave everything to a scholarship fund for children of immigrants, not 1 cent to Marcus. And then I waited. Because I knew Marcus and Vanessa would make their move soon. I knew they thought I was vulnerable, confused, ready to be manipulated. They had no idea I'd been 3 steps ahead of them the entire time. The call came 3 weeks after our airport encounter. Marcus, his voice syrupy with fake concern. Mom, Vanessa and I would love to have you over for dinner. Sunday at 6. We really want to spend more time with you. That sounds wonderful, I said. I'd love to see Emma and Daniel. Actually, the kids will be at Vanessa's sister's house. It'll just be the 3 of us. We thought it would be nice to have adult time. Adult time. No witnesses. Perfect for an ambush. I'll be there. I said. Sunday came. I dressed carefully, nice but not too nice. I wanted to look like someone who was trying to make an effort, but was maybe slipping a bit. I messed up my hair slightly. Wore a blouse that didn't quite match my pants. I looked like someone you might be justified in worrying about. I drove to their house in Coral Gables. The neighborhood was expensive, tree-lined. The kind of place where every lawn was perfectly manicured. Their house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, sprawling and ostentatious. Vanessa opened the door. All smiles. Mommy Grace. Come in, come in. The house smelled like roasted chicken. The dining table was set with their good china. They were trying to make this look like a special occasion. We made small talk over dinner. They asked about my health. I said I was fine but tired. They asked about work. I said it was getting harder. Lots of standing. Lots of stress. I was playing a role. The aging woman who was starting to struggle. The mother who needed help. After dinner, we moved to the living room. That's when Marcus pulled out a folder. Mom, Vanessa and I wanted to talk to you about something important. Of course, honey, I said. He opened the folder. We've been doing a lot of research. About your options. About places where you could live that would give you more support. He pulled out glossy brochures. Whispering Pines Senior Living. Sunrise Villa. Golden Years Community. These are all top-rated facilities. Beautiful grounds, activities, medical staff on site. I took the brochures. Looked at them like they were precious gifts. These look lovely. We could tour them together, Vanessa said. Find the one you like best. And with the money from your house, you could easily afford any of them. My house, I said slowly. We found a realtor, Marcus said quickly. She says in this market, we could have it sold in 30 days. Maybe get even more than $400,000. He said we. Not you could have it sold. We. I don't know, I said, letting my voice waver. It's such a big decision, which is why we want to help you, Marcus said. In fact, we've already scheduled appointments for tours. Next Saturday, we could see all 3 facilities in one day. They'd scheduled tours. Without asking me. Without my permission. That's very kind of you, I said. But I'm not sure I'm ready, Mom. Marcus's voice turned firmer. You said yourself you're struggling. You said you're tired. This is what's best for you. But Mom, even firmer now. The voice of someone who is done pretending. You're not getting any younger. And Vanessa and I are worried that if we wait too long, you might not be able to make these decisions clearly. There it was. The threat. The implication that I was losing my mental capacity. I looked at Vanessa. She was nodding along, her face arranged in an expression of fake sympathy. And then Vanessa said, in Spanish, to Marcus, Cris que firmara los papeles hoy. Do you think she'll sign the papers today? Marcus responded in Spanish, si no firma. Le diremos que ya hablamos con un doctor if she doesn't sign. We'll tell her we already talked to a doctor. They thought I couldn't understand. They thought I was sitting there, confused and vulnerable. While they openly discussed their manipulation tactics in front of me. It was time. I stood up, Joe. I said in perfect Spanish, Creo que deberíamos hablar en un idioma que todos entendemos, son. I think we should talk in a language we all understand. Asterisk, the color drained from both their faces simultaneously. Marcus actually stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. What? What did you just say? I continued in Spanish, my accent flawless, my grammar perfect. Dicho que creo que deberíamos hablar honestamente. He entendido cada palabra que han dicho durante las últimas 3 semanas. Cada conversation en español que pensaban que era privada. Cada plan que hicieron. I said I think we should talk honestly. I've understood every word you've said for the past 3 weeks. Every conversation in Spanish you thought was private. Every plan you made. Vanessa's hand went to her mouth. I switched back to English. Did you really think I worked at Miami International Airport for 12 years? Processing Spanish translations without speaking Spanish? Did you think I was that stupid? Mom, Marcus started. Let me tell you what I heard at Gate D7, I interrupted. I heard you discussing nursing homes. I heard you planning to manufacture evidence of my mental decline. I heard you calculating the value of my house and my savings. I heard you talking about using my money to pay off your credit card debt. And I recorded every single word. I pulled out my phone, played the recording, let them hear their own voices plotting against me in Spanish. When the recording finished, the silence in the room was absolute. I continued, a complete neuropsychological evaluation from Dr. Patricia Mendez at the University of Miami, confirming that I have 0 cognitive impairment. I have documentation from my employer showing my excellent performance reviews. I have testimony from colleagues about my professional competence. And I have a lawyer who specializes in elder abuse who is very excited to meet you both in court. If you pursue this any further. Marcus sank back into his chair. Mom, you don't understand, no, I said, my voice steel. You don't understand. You don't understand what you've done. You don't understand what you've lost. We were trying to help you. Vanessa said, her voice rising. Help me? I laughed, and it was not a kind sound. Help me by stealing my house? Help me by planning to have me declared incompetent? Help me by isolating me from my grandchildren so I'd have no one to turn to? That's not. I know about the lawyer consultations, I continued. I know about the $50,000 in credit card debt. I know about the financial problems you've been hiding. And I know that you saw me as a solution to your problems instead of as your mother. Mom, please. Marcus said, and for the first time, he sounded like he might actually be feeling something. We made mistakes. We were desperate. We're drowning financially, and we didn't know what else to do. So you decided to drown me? I asked. Tears were running down his face now. Real tears. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at my son. The little boy I'd raised alone. The child I'd sacrificed everything for. The man who'd grown into someone I didn't recognize. Marcus, I said quietly. Everything you thought you knew about me was wrong. I didn't just pick up Spanish at the airport. I lived in Buenos Aires for 30 years. I was married to an Argentine linguist. I worked for the U.S. Embassy. I speak Spanish at a native level in multiple dialects. I translate legal documents, medical records, business contracts. I'm not some confused old woman who worked a generic airport job. I'm a professional with specialized skills that people pay me very well for. He stared at me. I didn't know. No. I agreed. You didn't know. Because you never asked. In 12 years of living in the same city, you never once asked me about my work. Never visited me at the airport. Never showed the slightest interest in my life. You just saw an elderly mother you could manipulate. What do you want? Vanessa asked. Her voice was small now, all the fake sweetness gone. I want you to stay away from me, I said. I want you to stop scheming about my property. I want you to never, ever contact me again unless you're ready to offer a genuine apology and make genuine amends. And if we don't, Marcus asked, then my lawyer files a lawsuit for attempted elder abuse, fraudulent misrepresentation, and civil conspiracy. And I will testify in court about every word of Spanish I've heard you speak. And I will win. I picked up my purse. Walked to the door, Mom. Wait. Marcus called. I turned back. One more thing. I've already moved my house and my savings into an irrevocable trust. You can't touch them. Even if you somehow convinced a judge to give you guardianship which you won't, you still wouldn't be able to access my assets. I made sure of that. I opened the door, stepped out into the warm Miami night behind me. I heard Vanessa say in Spanish, "Que vamos a hacer ahora?" and Marcus's broken response, "No lo así, no lo así." I got in my car and drove away, asterisk. 1 year later, sitting in the courtyard of my little house in Miami Springs. The house that's now safely in trust, drinking café con leche and reading a letter from Miguel, Eduardo's son. Miguel is 60 now, still living in Buenos Aires with his family. We've been in touch more frequently this past year. After everything with Marcus, I reached out to Miguel. Needed to reconnect with family who actually valued me. In his letter, Miguel tells me about his granddaughters Quinceañera, about how they toasted Eduardo's memory, about how my Spanish has somehow gotten even better over the years. According to the long voice message I sent him last month, Graciela, he writes using my Spanish name, the name only Eduardo and his family ever called me. You taught me something important. When you told me about Marcus, you taught me that sometimes the family we choose is more real than the family we're born into, and that protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. I haven't spoken to Marcus in a year. He tried calling a few times in the first month, left voicemails that progressed from angry to apologetic to begging. I didn't respond to any of them. 3 months ago, I got a letter from an attorney, not the one who'd been helping them plot against me. A different one. The letter said Marcus and Vanessa were filing for bankruptcy, that they were losing the house, that they wanted to know if I would be willing to help. I wrote back with 2 words, no. Good luck. My life now is richer than it's been in years. I still work at the airport 3 days a week. I'll retire fully at 70, on my own terms. I volunteer at a local senior center, helping elderly immigrants with translation and advocacy. I teach Spanish classes twice a month at the public library. And I have my friends, Roberto and his family, Magdalena, who's become not just my lawyer but a genuine friend, Dr. Mendez, who invited me to guest lecture at the university about cognitive health and multilingual seniors, the community of professionals and immigrants and good people who actually see me, appreciate me, respect me. Emma is 10 now. Daniel is 8. I haven't seen them since that dinner. Sometimes I think about them. Wonder if Marcus ever told them why Grandma disappeared. Wonder what lies he fed them. But I also know that I can't save my grandchildren from their parents. All I can do is save myself. Last week, something extraordinary happened. I was working at the airport, processing a translation for a Salvadoran family, when a young woman approached me. Excuse me, she said in Spanish. Are you Grace Turner, the translator? I am, I said. My abuela told me about you. You helped her last year with her citizenship paperwork. She said you were the only person who treated her with respect, who took the time to explain everything carefully. I remember, I said. The grandmother had been 75 from Guatemala, speaking an indigenous dialect mixed with Spanish. The young woman handed me an envelope. She wanted me to give you this. Inside was a handwritten note in careful Spanish and a photograph. The note said, Doa Grace, because of you, I'm now a U.S. citizen. Because of you, I can vote. Because of you, I can travel to see my daughter in California without fear. You gave me my dignity. Thank you will never be enough. But thank you. The photograph showed the grandmother at her citizenship ceremony, holding her certificate, smiling with pure joy. I cried right there in the middle of the airport terminal because that is what my life is about. That is what my Spanish is for. Not for my son who tried to exploit me. Not for the people who saw me as an easy target, but for the people who need someone to see them, to hear them, to translate not just their words but their hopes, their fears, their humanity. My name is Grace Turner. I am 69 years old. I speak English and Spanish fluently, with a little Italian and Portuguese mixed in. I live in a small house that I own well, that my trust owns in Miami Springs. I have work that matters, friends who value me, a life that is entirely my own, and I have a son I may never speak to again. People ask me if I have regrets, if I wish I'd handled things differently, if I'm sad about losing my family. Here's what I tell them. I didn't lose my family. I lost people who saw me as an asset to be liquidated. I lost people who planned my imprisonment in a nursing home while speaking a language they thought I didn't understand. What I gained was everything: my freedom, my dignity, my voice, and the knowledge that it is never, ever too late to stand up for yourself. Even at 60-9. Even when it's your own son. Even when everyone expects you to just accept mistreatment because that's what good mothers do. I was a good mother. I raised a son who had every opportunity, but he chose to become someone who preys on the vulnerable. That's not my failure. That's his. And I chose to become someone who protects herself, who uses her skills, her language, her intelligence, her experience as weapons when necessary. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in my story, if you have family members who are pressuring you, manipulating you, trying to take control of your life, please know this. You are not too old to fight back. You are not too weak to say no. You are not obligated to let people hurt you just because they're family. And if you speak a language they think you don't know, use it. Document everything. Build your case. Protect yourself, because your life, your property, your dignity, they're worth fighting for. Always.